Text, file name. After rebirth, I refuse to take the fall for my fiancé. TXT, file content begin. The day Lu Wanchuang got into trouble, I was standing right outside the conference room door. Through the frosted glass, I could see the reporter's flashbulbs turning her face a ghastly white. The scandal of the group's financial report fraud was brewing, and someone needed to step forward to take the fall for her in front of the CSRC investigation, to admit to a procedural error in their handling, to absolve the heiress of criminal responsibility. In my previous life, I took the fall for her. I signed the plea agreement, got 3 years probation, had my lawyer's license revoked, and went from being the Chung family's ace to a used rag. I thought I was paving the way for our future, but when I finished my probation and returned to the Chung family with the documents to restore my reputation, I discovered that my cousin Lin Shubai had already moved into my room. He was wearing my unworn suits, sitting at my desk, using my laptop, and serving tea to my mother. Everyone said that while I was in trouble, he had taken care of my family and fulfilled my duties to the Chung family. Enduring great hardship, my mother took my hand and sighed. These past 3 years, if Shubai hadn't held things together, this family would have fallen apart long ago. My oldest brother looked at me coldly. Now that you're back, don't cause trouble. Shubai hasn't had it easy. My grandmother was even more direct. He's been your stand-in, dealing with the outside world for 3 years. What more could you possibly want? Even Lu Wanchuang, who had grown up with me, tacitly accepted him at her side. She said, I won't forget that you took the fall for me. But Shubai is more suited to be my husband than you are. So what? I, the rightful heir who sat on the bench for 3 years on behalf of someone else, not only got replaced, but was supposed to be grateful for this usurpation of my home. I threw a tantrum. I argued. I begged. All I got in return were sighs. It's all in the past. Why can't you let it go? Acting like this only alienates people. In the end, they arranged a car accident, 3 a.m., a slippery overpass, a black sedan with faulty brakes, clean and efficient. They took my life. Only at that moment did I realize they were never deceived. Rather, while I was still alive, they had already chosen someone else. So why should I take the fall for her again? In this life, the same. Scene. The date of the CSRC investigation interview. The time window for abnormal stock price fluctuations, which media outlets the reporters would come from, and exactly when they would storm the building. I remembered everything, down to the minute. In my previous life, Lu Wanchuang came out of the conference room, grabbed my hand, her eyes red. Yinxiu, there's no one else I can trust. I looked at her tears, and 20 minutes later, I was sitting in the CSRC office. In this life, before she could even speak, I was in the restroom at the end of the corridor, doubled over, dry heaving 3 times while staring at my own face in the mirror. When the restroom door opened, I was splashing cold water on my face. The person who came in was Sister Zhao from the group's legal department. Lawyer Chung, you look terrible. Ate something bad last night. I held onto the sink, my voice weak enough to be convincing. Sister Zhao, please tell Wanchuang for me that I need to go to the hospital. First, I registered at the ER, got an x-ray. The doctor said my gastric mucosa was a bit congested, prescribed medicine, and advised rest. Everything was documented. Lu Wanchuang called 3 times. I answered the third, my voice trembling as if I was holding back vomit. Wanchuang, I'm so sorry. I really can't right now. I'm at the ER. 5 seconds of silence on the other end. It's okay. Get some rest. She hung up. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, with no one to shield her, Lu Wanchuang faced the combined onslaught of the CSRC and 17 media outlets alone. The group's stock price plummeted 12%. When she came out of the press conference, I saw a screenshot of the live stream online. Her face was ashen, her fingers gripping the microphone, knuckles white, exactly the same as when she had grabbed my wrist in my previous life. I turned off my phone, and, under the white ceiling of the hospital, my heart beat calmly. In my previous life, that 12% drop had been my reputation, my future. 3 years of my life. I had taken it all for her. She had held me and cried, saying she would always remember my sacrifice. How ridiculous. Yinxiu Ji. Lin Shubai was the first to call me. Before I'd even left the hospital gate, his voice stabbed through the receiver, laced with carefully crafted anxiety and tremor. Why are you at the hospital? Do you know how big of a mess Jia is in? How could you just? He paused for half a second, as if realizing he'd gone too far, his tone softening. I'm not blaming you. I'm just so worried. I stood in the ER lobby holding my bag of medicine, surrounded by coughs and the smell of disinfectant. Shubai, I ate something bad and vomited all morning. Do you think I should have gone to the press conference? Dry heaving. He choked. And you? My tone flat. You've been interning at the group for almost 6 months now. You're much closer to Wanchuang than I am. Why didn't you step in to help her today? 3 seconds of silence. I'm just an intern. What qualifications do I have? Not qualified to worry about whether I helped, but perfectly qualified to blame me for not being there. I hung up. Back at the Chung house, my oldest brother Chung Li was already waiting in the living room. He sat on the sofa, phone in hand, a news page still glowing on the screen. Yinxiu. The way he said my name reminded me of a judge calling a defendant, Big Brother. You know what happened today? I know. What's wrong with you? He stood up, voice tight, suppressing his anger. Do you know what the Liu family expects from us Changs? You're engaged to Wanchuang. Where were you at a time like this? At the hospital? Lying in the ER. Acute gastroenteritis. Couldn't you have held it in? He stared at me. You weren't like this before. Before, the me from before had already died once in a black sedan on an overpass. You think I should have dragged myself to face the reporters and the CSRC while bleeding from my stomach? I asked him slowly. Chung Li's expression flickered. I didn't say you should go while sick, but you could have at least made a call, sent someone to stand in. I did. I called Sister Zhao. She's head of legal. His mouth opened and closed, unable to find an angle to argue, and finally he squeezed out. You should have called Wanchuang. My mother came downstairs, a mixture of exhaustion and panic on her face. She pulled me into her study, looked me over, confirmed I was fine, and then lowered her voice. What really happened today? Are you actually sick? I looked at my mother, Linine. In my previous life, she had also first expressed concern, then advised me to endure. Mom, my stomach was bleeding. The hospital has records. She stared into my eyes for a few seconds, as if trying to see through me, then finally sighed. All right, as long as you're okay. It's just, the Liu family might have some thoughts, and your grandmother will definitely have a few words for you later. That boy Shubai was just anxious. His words were a bit harsh. Don't hold it against him. Again. Endure. Again. Don't hold it against him. I twitched the corner of my mouth. Mom, I understand. I understand that all of you had already chosen Lin Shubai long ago. I understand that my feelings never mattered. From start to finish, the main hall of the Chung family's old residence. The long rosewood table was polished to a mirror shine. Grandmother sat at the head, her teacup resting by her hand. Untouched, my father, Chung Hemming, sat to her left, his fingers interlaced and gripped tight, knuckles white. My brother was still at the Liu family's handling the aftermath. As soon as I entered, grandmother's gaze swept over me like a searchlight. Sit down. I didn't sit. Chung Yinxiu, explain yourself. Today, her voice wasn't loud, but the temperature in the room dropped 3 degrees. The Liu family had a huge leak. You are Wanchuang's fiancé, the Chung family's representative at the Liu group. At the critical moment, where were you? At the hospital, lying in the ER. My father also spoke. Yinxiu, I'm very disappointed. How has Liu Wanchuang treated you? Everyone in this circle knows. She chose you as her fiancé, an opportunity many would kill for, and you abandoned her when she needed you most. Where does that leave the Chung family's face? Every word a nail. In my previous life, I had lost my temper here. I'd said, do you want me dead? I'd said, is my life worth so little? Their faces had changed, but no one had truly listened. This life? I said. Nothing. I stood where I was and slowly bent my waist. 90 degrees. My forehead nearly touched my knees. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. No one spoke. Grandmother and father were stunned. They had braced themselves for my arguments and retorts, but not for silence. 10 seconds. I straightened up, then bent down again. Second time. What are you doing? My father's voice cracked. Third time, when I straightened my back. I felt blood rush to my head, my temples throbbing. I looked at them. Grandmother's hand was trembling, not from anger, but an indescribable, uncomfortable tremor. My father's mouth was open, words stuck in his throat. Father, grandmother. My voice was light, flat. Since you both think I should have taken the fall for Wanshuang and borne the guilt, then I bow to you in apology, but I want to ask you one thing. I paused for 2 seconds, letting the silence expand in the room. If I really had gone, pleaded guilty, been sentenced, lost my license, lost my future, and returned 3 years later to find that you had already let Shubai sit in my place, would you have come to visit me in prison, or would you have thrown a celebration banquet for Shubai at home? The entire hall fell deathly silent. Grandmother's teacup toppled with a sharp crack. Tea water spilled across the table, dripping drop by drop onto the floor, no one wiping it up. What nonsense are you talking? My father's voice was hoarse. I'm asking about a hypothetical. I looked at him, enunciating each word. If I really had taken all the blame for her and come back 3 years later, what do you think would have happened? Shubai would be living in my room, wearing my clothes, using my computer. Every single one of you would be saying to me, he's had it rough. Father, by then, would you think I'd had it rough too? My father's lips moved, but no sound came out. Grandmother closed her eyes, pressing her fingers to her temples, and said after a long while, enough, go to your room. Not go reflect, but go to your room. The taut string in her voice had loosened by a millimeter. As I turned, my heart felt washed in ice water, cold and sober. This wasn't victory. It was just the first time they didn't know how to argue back. But at least I was no longer the person who would only shout, "Do you want me dead?" and get scolded for being disrespectful. Before I even left the main hall, I heard footsteps behind me. Uncle, don't be angry. Lin Shubai had arrived sometime. Rushing over to stand in front of my father, his face wearing an expression of perfectly timed anxiety, his voice tinged with tears. It's all Shubai's fault for being useless, for not being able to stop Yanxiuji. Yanxiuji wasn't feeling well. He didn't mean it. Blame Shubai if you must. Shubai should have gone to the group earlier to help. His eyes reddened. His chin quivered slightly, like a startled fawn. My mother's heart immediately softened, and she tugged my father's arm. Stop it, Yanxiu. Knows he was wrong. Don't get yourself worked up. Grandmother looked at Lin Shubai, her expression softening. Then when she looked back at me, there was only coldness. Look at Shubai. Then look at you. He pleads for you. Thinks of the bigger picture. What can you do besides talk back to your elders? I had seen this act countless times in my previous life. Every time I was unreasonable. Lin Shubai would appear at the perfect moment to play the good little brother cleaning up my mess. It always ended with me backing down and staying silent. But this time, I wasn't playing along. I turned to face them, my voice dry. Father, grandmother, I was indeed wrong. Wrong to be sick today. Wrong to fail to share Wanshuang's burden. I accept punishment. But to say I deliberately shirked my duty, that I didn't care about Wanshuang or the Chung family, that I do not accept. I paused. As for the engagement, and whether I am still worthy of the Liu family's match, father and grandmother can decide. I have no opinion. I threw the ball back to them. The Liu group was at a critical juncture. If the Chung family were to discipline me now on grounds of Yanxiu's dereliction of duty, or even actively break off the engagement, word would get out. The Chengs would be seen as ungrateful, the Lius as harsh and unkind. Neither side would save face if they still wanted to maintain the marriage alliance. At least on the surface, they couldn't immediately grind me into the dirt. Sure enough, grandmother and father fell silent. A flicker of urgency passed through Lin Shubai's eyes. He was hoping I would completely break down right there, giving them a reason to kick me out for good. Liu Wanshuang sent word. She wanted me to come to the group headquarters to see her, not a phone call. A formal notification through her assistant, Secretary Qin, cold tone, businesslike. I knew what she wanted, first care, then interrogation. Using past feelings to pressure me, the exact same tactic as my previous life. The Liu Group headquarters was in the heart of the CBD, its full glass facade reflecting the lead gray sky. I took the elevator to the top floor and walked into her office. The air smelled of expensive aromatherapy oils mixed with the bitterness of coffee. Liu Wanshuang sat behind her desk, immaculately made up, only the dark circles under her eyes betraying that she hadn't slept much in the past 48 hours. She was extremely beautiful, a sharp jawline, high brow bones. When she smiled, she was aggressive, When she didn't, even more so, even tired, she was like an unsheathed knife. Sit. She gestured with her chin. Wan Shuang. I'm sorry. I sat down, my voice carrying a perfect blend of guilt and lingering weakness. I really was. How's your stomach? She interrupted. Much better. The doctor said it was acute gastroenteritis. Gave me medicine. Just gastroenteritis, she said slowly, tapping her fingers on the desk twice. Yanxiu, you once told me you'd do anything for me. When the CSRC people came that day, what were you thinking? Here it comes. I lifted my head, letting my eyes redden. This wasn't hard. Just remembering the tone of her voice when she said, but Shubai is more suited to be my husband than you, brought the tears naturally. Wan Shuang, I was vomiting so hard in the restroom that my legs went weak. My voice began to tremble. By the time I recovered and saw the news, I hated myself. You faced those reporters alone. Do you know how devastated I was when I saw the live stream screenshot? I kept thinking, if only I hadn't eaten something bad. If only I had pushed through. I lowered my head, my shoulders shaking slightly. When I loved her with all my heart in my previous life, this was how I was, sincere, vulnerable, putting her on a pedestal. In this life, I don't love her, but acting it out isn't hard. Lu Wanshuang stared at me for a long time. Her gaze was like a CT scan. Just sick, nothing else. You suspect me. I jerked my head up, eyes full of wounded disbelief. You think I did it on purpose, Wanshuang. All right. She looked away, pressing her fingers to her brow bone, the edge in her voice dulling a bit. I was too harsh. Being sick can't be helped. Go home and rest, Wanshuang. Let's not talk about today anymore. She closed her eyes. The string that had been taut for 48 hours finally loosened half a notch in exhaustion. You should go. Okay. You get some rest too. I stood up, walked to the door, and the moment I turned, all the vulnerability and guilt evaporated from my face like drying water stains, leaving only a frozen, bone-deep indifference. Walking out of Lu Wanshuang's office, crossing the corridor, I was stopped in the elevator lobby. Lin Shubai. He had somehow gotten into the headquarters building and was waiting there. Good. Done talking with Wanshuang Jia. His face wore a gentle smile, but his eyes were like match heads tipped with phosphorus. She didn't blame you, did she? Your little brother has been worried about you all day. Don't trouble yourself. I pressed the elevator button, not looking at him. He stepped sideways, blocking the elevator doors, and lowered his voice so only the two of us could hear. Cheng Yanxiu, stop pretending. You going to the hospital that day was on purpose, wasn't it? I didn't speak. His smile deepened, with the gleeful satisfaction of finally tearing off the wrapping paper. You think you can fool everyone. Others might not see it, but I do. You just didn't want to take the fall for her. You're scared. You've gone soft. You don't dare sacrifice yourself for her again. He leaned in half a step, speaking in a whisper. Too bad Wanshuang Jia has a soft heart and still bought your lies. But don't worry. A few more incidents like this, and she'll see your true colors. Your place in her heart has already started to crack, and He raised his chin slightly. Just need to wait. He stepped back, resuming his meek and humble expression, raising his voice to normal volume. Go home and rest. Your health comes first. Your little brother is off now. I watched him turn to leave, his performance over. Shubai. I called out. He turned back, and then he saw something that chilled him to the bone. I shifted my weight slightly, raised my chin, tucked my hands into my pockets, and assumed the exact same posture, the exact same angle, wearing the exact same gentle smile as he had. Then I spoke. My voice changed, not imitating his tone, but imitating his rhythm of speech, his pauses, his proportion of breath to voice, the upward lilt at the end of his sentences. Cheng Yanxiu, stop pretending. I spoke his lines in his manner, word for word, perfectly replicating even the rising inflection of was on purpose, wasn't it? Lin Shubai's face cycled through confusion, shock, and fear in 3 seconds. I let the smile drop, resuming my own voice and bearing. It took you 3 years to imitate my life, I said calmly, my gaze sweeping over the suit jacket he was wearing, the same style as mine. It took me 30 seconds to learn you. The difference is, I'm acting, you're living. The elevator arrived. The doors opened. I stepped inside and pressed the button for the basement level. As the doors closed, I saw Lin Shubai standing there, lips white, as if someone had pulled a bone out of his spine. Back at the Chung house, sure enough, the wind had already shifted. Starting 3 days after my return from the hospital, wave after wave of public opinion crashed over me. The Chung family's eldest son fled the scene, leaving his fiancée to face the CSRC while he went to the ER. The anecdotes spread like a virus: friends circles, industry chat groups, financial gossip accounts. The versions grew more and more ridiculous. Some said I pretended to be sick on purpose. Some said Lu Wanchuang and I had long since fallen out. Others said I had known about the group's dirt and ran to save myself. The Chung family became a laughingstock. My father was subtly asked about it by peers at a law firm partners meeting and came back purple-faced. My brother looked at me more like a stranger every day. My mother, who initially came to my room to sit, bring fruit, and tell me to endure, came less often after seeing grandmother's firm stance and my father and brother's disappointment. Occasionally she'd send the housekeeper with toiletries, perfunctorily, every few days. Something new would happen to make the Chung family lose more face. Someone asked my father point blank at an industry annual meeting, "Did your son have a falling out with the Lu family?" A partner postponed contract signing with Chung Lee's law firm. Even at the wellness club my grandmother frequented, the old lady's gossip turned to that eldest Chung grandson. And every time, Lin Shubai happened to be in the right place to smooth things over. Drinking for my father, accompanying my brother's clients, making excuses for my grandmother in social settings. In a month, his presence in the Chung family had quietly upgraded from lodging relative to indispensable person. Grandmother directly exempted me from my daily visits to pay respects. "Think hard about what you've done. Don't come down if you have nothing to say." One afternoon a month later, before I could go upstairs, I saw 2 maids moving boxes out of my room. Cardboard boxes lined the hallway, my books, CDs, picture frames, all jumbled together. "What are you doing?" A maid I didn't recognize turned around, her expression polite but cold. "Yinxiu Xiaoya is back," the old madam instructed. "Said you haven't been well lately," and the east wing room faces west. "Afternoon sun is bad for convalescence. The old madam has prepared the attic room above the garage for you. Quiet, suitable for rest. This room will be for Shubai Xiaoya." Shubai Xiaoya helps the old madam with many things every day. Living in the east wing is closer, more convenient. The attic above the garage, the Chung family storage space, poor insulation, sweltering in summer, freezing in winter, windows the size of postage stamps. And the east wing suite was the room my mother had decorated herself the year I was born. Custom walnut bookshelves, floor-to-ceiling windows along one wall. Jasmine she had planted on the balcony. Now, with one word from grandmother, I was being swept out to make room for my dear cousin, Zhou Ming, my assistant who had been with me since college, his face flushed with anger. "What right do they have? This is your room. Who does Lin Shubai think he is? He's just a relative lodging here. Since when? Does a guest take over the host's room?" The maid smiled. "Zhou assistant, that's not quite right. Shubai Xiaoya is not a guest. The old madam says Shubai Xiaoya is more considerate than anyone, just like family. As for Yinxiu Xiaoya," she glanced at me, "you've caused quite a bit of displeasure lately. A change of scenery to clear your head might do you good." I looked at the boxes. One had come unsealed, revealing its contents. My mother's graduation photo, in a silver frame, a fresh scratch on the corner. On the other side, Lin Shubai's suitcases had already been brought up, neatly stacked by the door, their brand labels fresh and new. "Wait a moment," I said. The maid turned back. I walked over to the 2 men moving my bookshelf. On the shelf was a row of law books, the ones I had collected one by one after passing the bar exam, with my annotations on the title pages. Next to them, a small rosewood jewelry box, not large, which my mother had given me when I came of age. Inside was a jade bracelet, not top quality, but my mother had worn it for 20 years, and it was as warm and smooth as living water. On the vanity was the platinum brooch my mother often wore, a plum blossom shape, small but distinctive, and in the vanity drawer was an old bronze mirror, also my mother's, its surface long since tarnished. This box, those books on the shelf, that platinum brooch, and the bronze mirror in the drawer. "I'm taking those. The rest, I don't care about." "But," Shubai Xiaoya said he could use those books. He wanted them left. "He can use them." I laughed. the humor not reaching my eyes. He hasn't even passed the bar exam. What does he want with my annotated books to look impressive on a shelf? And this, I picked up the rosewood box and held it to my chest. This is my mother's bequest. If any of you dare touch it, I'll go to court tomorrow and apply for asset preservation. Let's see if grandmother's favoritism can trump the law. The maids exchanged uneasy glances, not daring to move further. 20 minutes later, carrying the rosewood box, 2 cartons of books, a brooch, and the old bronze mirror, I stood at the door of the garage attic. The air smelled of dust and old cardboard. The window was indeed the size of a postage stamp. The floorboards creaked under my weight. Zhou Ming wiped down the table, cursing under his breath. Those people. Just wait. I'll find a way. Stop cursing, I said. I set the rosewood box on the only clean surface, opened it, and looked at the jade bracelet. The green was translucent, cool and smooth against the hand. When my mother wore it, she used to rub the band with her thumb. She said the bracelet nourished the person, becoming more lustrous with wear. Remember this day, I said, closing the box. Remember every single one of their faces. But what do we do next? Zhou Ming asked quietly. What next? I looked out the little window at the sliver of sky, gray and empty. Zhou Ming said we could take legal action. Of course I could. I was a practicing lawyer. I had plenty of ways to sue them. But I wouldn't. Not because I couldn't, but because it wasn't worth it. The law could only solve surface issues of property and status. What I wanted wasn't to win a lawsuit. I wanted every single one of them to see with their own eyes the price of their favoritism. The law can't judge favoritism. Only the truth can. In my previous life, they arranged a 3 a.m. car accident. I didn't know who made the final decision. Grandmother, father, Lu Wanshuang. But one thing was certain, as long as I was in their way, that ending could repeat itself at any moment. So I had to move fast, fast enough that before they could decide to kill me, I would lay all the cards on the table. A knife in the dark is harder to defend against than one in the light. This was only the beginning. Lin Shubai, meanwhile, was thriving, using the excuse of taking care of grandmother on Yinxiuji's behalf. He attended her daily, charming the old lady into smiles. He lived in my room, used to things I had left behind, wore new clothes bought by grandmother and my mother, and attended every occasion that should have been mine. He became the de facto successor of the Chung family, the new darling of social circles. Everyone knew of the Chung family's grateful, filial, and considerate cousin. In contrast, I, the cowardly and disloyal legitimate son, became ever more contemptible. Whenever we happened to meet at home, Lin Shubai would smile warmly and affectionately call me Ji, then casually mention how grandmother had praised him again, which dinner party mother had taken him to, what supplements Lu Wanshuang had sent via her secretary. I just listened, never responding. His punches landed on cotton, which only made him try harder, redoubling his efforts. The crisis at the Lu Group was slowly subsiding. But Lu Wanshuang's position as heiress was beginning to wobble. The group had 2 major shareholder factions. Lu Wanshuang was the eldest daughter of the main branch, with the strongest claim. Her cousin, Lu Zhong, was from the second branch, in charge of the group's real estate division. His recent projects had been successful, and he was gaining momentum on the board. Before, Lu Wanshuang's strong abilities and connections had made her position solid. But this financial scandal not only exposed management weaknesses, but also damaged her image of being sharp and decisive. Worse, a financial media outlet published an in-depth report implying she had poor judgment in personnel and ineffective management, and that even her fiancé was unwilling to stand by her. Though not named, the implication was clear. The second branch faction seized the opportunity to pressure her. I could piece together the business dynamics from fragments of information Zhou Ming gathered and the oppressive atmosphere at home. Even from my attic perch, my father and brother grew more frustrated and dissatisfied with me by the day. They believed everything was a chain reaction caused by my cowardly flight. That evening, the Lu Group held a small appreciation dinner for key partners. The Chung family was naturally invited. Grandmother took Lin Shubai. I was left at home to reflect. When they returned after 9, I saw from the attic window the garage light come on. Lin Shubai stepped out of the car, wearing a man's trench coat, too large for him, a size too big, with a small dark red embroidered logo on the inside of the collar. I recognized that logo. It was the emblem of Lu Wanshuang's private custom brand, Ombra. Her wardrobe had a full rack of trench coats from this brand, each embroidered with that logo. It was her coat. She had put her own trench coat on Lin Shubai. Grandmother was beaming. My father and brother's expressions were also much more relaxed than when they left. "Where's Yinxiu? Call him down," grandmother ordered. I was called to the living room. Lin Shubai half lounged on the sofa, rubbing the cuff of the coat between his fingers. When he saw me, he gave a shy, triumphant smile. "Yinxiu." Grandmother's tone was uncharacteristically gentle. "At today's dinner, Miss Lu specifically asked about you." "My fault for making her worry," I said, eyes lowered. "Wanshuang didn't blame you," grandmother said. "Shubai performed very well today, brought honor to the Chung family. He chatted with Miss Lu for a long time, and she was very pleased. She even gave Shubai her coat. Look," she pointed at the trench coat. "What an honor." Lin Shubai dutifully lowered his head. "Wanshuang Jie is just kind." Shubai only mentioned that she looked a bit cold when she came out. Mother patted his hand, smiling. "Good boy." Then she looked at me, her smile fading. "Yinxiu, you should learn from Shubai." Though Wanshuang didn't say it outright, her meaning is clear. She's being magnanimous about the past, not holding it against you. But you need to know your limits. Shubai gets along well with Wanshuang. They should spend more time together. It would be good for you and for the Chung family. My brother also chimed in. "Shubai is sensible and more attentive than you. If you have any sense, you'll know what to do." I listened quietly. They were already paving the way for Lin Shubai. Telling me to know my limits meant tacitly approving, even encouraging him to get close to Lu Wanshuang and replace me. "I understand what you mean," I said, lifting my eyes and letting them sweep over the glaring trench coat on Lin Shubai. Shubai is indeed attentive. He even noticed what Wanshuang was wearing and whether she was cold. I can't compare. Lin Shubai's expression flickered. He heard the sarcasm. Grandmother frowned slightly, but probably thinking I had finally accepted it, waved her hand. "You may go." I turned toward the stairs, hearing Lin Shubai's soft voice behind me. "Grandmother, Wanshuang Jia also said she wants to invite me to her villa to see some new paintings she acquired. Paintings in my previous life. Lu Wanshuang had also shown me paintings in the private gallery of her villa. She leaned on my shoulder and said she wanted to collect art with me for a lifetime. So the same lines could be spoken to different people, many times over. Back in the attic, Zhou Ming greeted me, his face full of indignation. How dare he flaunt MS, Lu's coat, and the old lady in them? How can they treat you like this? Let him gloat, I said, sitting by the window and looking out at the small square of night. The higher he climbs, the harder he falls. But do we just endure it? Of course not. I rubbed my cold fingers inside my sleeve. Since my rebirth, I hadn't been idle. The memories of my past life were the best intelligence. I had been quietly setting things in motion, quietly gathering some information, contacting some unimportant people. The timing just wasn't right yet. "Zhou Ming," I lowered my voice. "How's that matter I asked you to look into?" Zhou Ming leaned in, pulled up a note from his phone's memo, and read quietly. "Lin Shubai's driver, Xiao Chun his mother lives in the suburbs. Last year she was diagnosed with cirrhosis and needs a liver transplant. Shubai gives big gifts but is stingy with his staff. Xiao Chun secretly pawned an old watch to pay for medical bills. Shubai found out, docked 3 months' pay, and screamed at him. Xiao Chun is furious." And Zhou Ming flipped a page. "Shubai never lets his phone out of his sight, but he has a habit. He writes in a diary in his phone's memo app every night. Xiao Chun has seen him do it several times. Shubai thinks no one knows, but when he showers, he leaves his phone by the bed, unlocked. Xiao Chun has glanced at it. He says the things written there are very revealing. How he schemes against you. How he sucks up to MS, Lu. How he secretly contacts and passes messages to a male assistant beside MS, Lu named Su Ran. It's all written down. Su Ran." I filed the name away. In my previous life, Lu Wanshuang did have a quiet, unassuming male assistant named Su Ran, who enjoyed an unusually high degree of her trust. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now. Also, Zhou Ming continued, "Those negative news articles you asked me to track down. I have a friend who does self-media who helped trace them. The earliest articles all came from the same marketing account matrix. The registered company for that matrix shows up on Tianyanka. The legal representative is a college classmate of Lin Shubai. More interestingly, the payment records show the funds came from an anonymous account, but the transfer note had the character Su in it. Probably forgot to delete it. Stupid. Lin Shubai's methods were cruder than I'd imagined. He probably thought in this age of information overload, tracing the source would be too hard, that no one would bother. Zhou Ming, your brother works in bank compliance, right? Yes. Reliable, tight-lipped. Good. I took an envelope from the drawer, containing cash and a card. Find a way, discreetly, to help Xiao Chen's mother. Use cash, no. Transfers. Then have your brother help me trace the funds from that anonymous account, as detailed as possible. As for Xiao Chen, I paused. Tell him I can save his mother's life. I want only one thing in return, screenshots of Lin Shubai's memo diary. Every entry, with timestamps. If he can't take screenshots, handwritten transcripts will do. But the content must be word for word. Especially the parts about spreading rumors, framing me, and his secret contacts with Su Ran. Those must be crystal clear. Also, have your self-media friend take screenshots of the traced marketing account matrix info. Registration company, payment records. All of it. Save them as a PDF. One last thing. I looked out at the small square of night. When the time comes, if I publicly expose these things on some occasion, the news needs to spread that same night. How it spreads and to whom. You arrange it. Don't use our own channels. Use someone else's. Zhou Ming's eyes lit up. You're planning to. Just answer me one thing, I said, looking at him. Do you trust me? He paused for a second, then nodded. Firmly. Then that's enough. And one more thing. I turned to one of the screenshots Xiao Chun had sent, my brow furrowing. He planted a listening device under my pillow. Zhou Ming's face changed. He immediately got up and checked under the pillow. There was nothing. He said he only listened for 2 days and then removed it. I said, looking at the original text on the screenshot, but we can't rule out others. Search this room top to bottom. From now on, we talk outside. That night, Zhou Ming used a phone signal detector to sweep the attic. No other devices were found. After that, all sensitive conversations were held in the car or outdoors. Lin Shubai, probably feeling victory was within his grasp, grew increasingly blatant in his smugness and his pity for me. One day, accompanied by Xiao Chun, he swaggered up to the attic. Go. These conditions are terrible, he said, touching the dust on the windowsill with his finger and frowning. I'll talk to grandmother later. Get you an air conditioner or something. No need, I said, reading documents at my desk without looking up. He wandered around the room, his gaze finally landing on the rosewood jewelry box on the table. You still have this. He reached out to touch the lid. Mother. Auntie's bracelet. I remember. Jade. Pretty good quality. Go. To be honest, keeping it in a place like this, the humidity will make it cloud over. Why don't you lend it to me for a while? I have a humidity-controlled cabinet in my room. No, I said, turning a page. His smile stiffened slightly. Go. I mean well. Besides, if this bracelet could be worn in front of Wanshuang Jia, it would live up to its quality. Better than collecting dust here. Don't you think? He invoked Lu Wanshuang. I set down the document and looked up at him. You want to wear my mother's bracelet to curry favor with Lu Wanshuang? Go. That's harsh. He put on a hurt expression. I just think Wanshuang Jia likes Jade, and I want to make her happy, since Go isn't convenient to go out right now. Letting me do my best for her on your behalf is only right, isn't it? Do your best for me on my behalf. I laughed. No need. My mother's things don't leave the family. If you want a jade bracelet, buy your own, or ask Lu Wanshuang to give you one. I'm sure she won't be stingy. His face darkened. The smile finally fell. Cheng Yinxiu, don't be ungrateful. Do you still think you're the same Cheng family's eldest son? You're nothing now but a disgraced. Despised by your own family. This bracelet is wasted on you. I'm offering to take it as a favor to you. Finally, the mask dropped. I stood up. I'm half a head taller than him. I looked down at him. Lin Shubai, my things, even if I smash them or throw them away, are none of your business. What are you? A cousin living on charity, only standing because you imitated me and ingratiated yourself with my family. What right do you have to bark at me? You. He shook with rage, pointing at my nose. I'll tell grandmother. I'll tell auntie. Go ahead. I sat back down and picked up the document. Tell them you wanted my mother's bequest. I refused, and you lost your temper. Let them judge. Since when has the Chung family rule changed to allow a guest to demand the host's heirlooms? He slammed the door and left. Within half an hour, my mother's phone rang. At my mother's floor, Lin Shubai was indeed leaning against her, wiping his eyes. Grandmother was also there, sitting in the corner of the sofa, her expression unpleasant. Yinxiu, stand up straight. My mother said sharply as soon as she saw me. Shubai only offered to help you keep the bracelet safe. Did you have to be so harsh? He's your little brother. How could you speak to him like that? Grandmother said coldly. It's just a bracelet. What's the harm in letting Shubai wear it for a few days? When will you ever change that temper of yours? Lin Shubai sniffled. Auntie, grandmother, don't blame Yinxiu Ji. Shubai shouldn't have asked. Shubai just thought it was a shame for the bracelet to sit in the attic. And if Wanshuang Jie could see it, maybe she'd be happy. Go must have misunderstood and thought Shubai was trying to take his things. Shubai doesn't want it anymore. Shubai will never dare again. My mother patted his back tenderly, then glared at me. Look how considerate Shubai is, and look at you, making your brother feel terrible over a bracelet. Where are your manners? I looked at them, then spoke. Mom. Grandmother. My voice was soft, but each word was sharp. In your hearts, do you really think that as long as Shubai wants something of mine, I should give it to him, my room, my clothes, my personal belongings, my fiancée, my place? As long as he wants it, I should just hand it over. My mother and grandmother both froze. What nonsense! My mother blustered. Nonsense. I laughed, then tears fell. I hadn't tried to produce them. They came on their own, for the me of my previous life, and for what this body was experiencing in this one. Ever since Shubai arrived, what of mine hasn't he touched? A jacket I liked. He said he liked it too. And you, Mom, went and bought him the same one first. Figurines I'd collected for 2 years. After he glanced at them, Grandmother told me to be generous. The room I'd lived in for over 20 years. He said living close to Grandmother was convenient for taking care of her. So I had to move to the garage attic. Now even the only bracelet Mom left me wants to take it. And when I say no, I'm called inconsiderate, unfriendly, petty. I cried earnestly, half true, half performance, but every word was grounded in fact. Dad and Big Brother blame me for being cowardly, for not taking the fall for Wanshuang. But I'm human too. I get sick. I was slow to react. It was my fault. I admit it. But why does everyone want me to sacrifice? Does my very existence offend them? Do you all only feel peace when I disappear? The weight of that last sentence was immense. My mother turned her face away. Grandmother rubbed her forehead, unable to speak for a long time. All right. Grandmother finally compromised, a third of the way. A bracelet. Is it worth all this, Shubai? That bracelet was his mother's. Don't ask for it. Grandmother will buy you a better one. Lin Shubai hadn't expected me to resist so fiercely, nor that grandmother wouldn't fully side with him. He bit his lip and said, okay. His eyes at me holding a new layer of hatred. And you? Stop causing a scene. Grandmother sighed. Everyone, disperse. Again, stop causing a scene. Again, disperse. I wiped my tears, stood up, and without looking at them again, turned and walked away. Back in the attic, my face was already dry. Don't be sad. Zhou Ming's eyes were red. I'm not sad. I looked at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone and smoothed my hair. Tears can be weapons too. Today's performance was worth it. Sure enough, that very night, the story of my tantrum at my mother's had already spread through the house in another version. The eldest son, making a huge fuss over a bracelet, talking back to his elders, throwing a fit. The cousin, wrong yet still pleading for him. What a rare, good boy. No matter what I did, I was always in the wrong. But this was the effect I needed. I wanted everyone to see that Lin Shubai and I were at irreconcilable odds. I wanted their favoritism laid bare on the table. 3 weeks after moving to the attic, news exploded. The Lu Group's board passed a resolution. Due to recent turmoil, Lu Wanshuang was temporarily stepping down as Group COO, retaining her board seat for rest and adjustment. Simultaneously, Lu Zheng was appointed acting COO, taking full charge of the group's daily operations. Though not completely kicked out, Lu Wanshuang's real power had been largely hollowed out. She was desperate. She needed allies, resources, everything that could help her turn the tables. And a marital alliance, binding a useful family, was the fastest way, originally. I was the most suitable candidate. The Chung family had deep connections in legal circles. My father's law firm had handled countless commercial disputes, with resources spanning the industry, but my reputation for cowardly flight made her hesitate. Then Lin Shubai appeared in her sights, of lower birth than me, but backed by the Chung family's influence, and with his recent excellent reputation for being gentle and polite. Most importantly, he was utterly devoted to her and seemed easier to control than me. Word came from the Liu family. Liu Wanchuang formally proposed to the Chengs that the engagement target be changed from Chung Yinxiu to Lin Shubai, not to cancel the engagement, but an internal adjustment. After all, both were part of the Chung family, not husband, but boyfriend/fiancé. Yet when the engagement slot was vacant, the first person chosen carried undeniable meaning. The news hit the Chung family like a bomb. Lin Shubai was almost too giddy to stand. After years of scheming and playing every angle, he'd finally made it, though not yet formally married. Once he was tied to Liu Wanchuang. With his skills and Liu family resources, everything would be a matter of time. Grandmother, father, mother, oldest brother, all sighed in relief, then beamed. Although the target had changed, at least the alliance with the Liu family was preserved. In their eyes, Lin Shubai, docile and obedient, was far more reliable than me, the time bomb. As for me, a legitimate son with a damaged reputation, unpopular with Liu Wanchuang, long since a discarded pawn, my house arrest was naturally lifted. The whole family was busy making arrangements for Lin Shubai. No one had time for me. Lin Shubai became the center of attention, fitting suits, choosing watches, preparing for various social appearances. He no longer bothered to hide his smugness. "Go. What do you think of my suit, custom from England?" he said, walking past me in a dark blue suit. "Go. Wanchuang Jie sent over a lot of gifts. Do you want to pick out a few? Go. After I'm with Wanchuang Jie, I'll be sure to take good care of you." This last, whispered in my ear, at a volume only I could hear. I looked at him like a grasshopper hopping high. "Congratulations," I said, my tone flat. "I hope you can hold on." He snorted and walked away. He thought I was jealous. He didn't know I meant it sincerely as congratulations. The days of confinement passed uneventfully, but the sky outside was changing color. Zhou Ming had compiled all the collected materials into 3 folders. First, 57 screenshots of Lin Shubai's phone diary, the earliest from half a year ago, long before my cowardly flight. He had been plotting to replace me in his diary. Xiao Chun had photographed them carefully, each screenshot showing the time and date from the phone's status bar. The content was disgustingly detailed. How he hired marketing accounts to smear me, how much he spent and who he hired, how he spread hints around the Chung family that Yinxiu Ji has character issues, how he passed messages to Liu Wanchuang through Su Ran and probed for internal Liu family news. He even recorded. "Today I performed a great scene in front of Annie," almost laughed out loud. These people are so easy to fool. Second, a PDF tracing the marketing account matrix, including registered company, legal representative information, and fund flows. A clear chain of evidence. Third, written statements from Xiao Chun and the self-media. Friend, signed and fingerprinted. The chain of evidence was closed, but I was still waiting. Soon, the opportunity came. It was already mid-November. Word came from the Liu family. Liu Wanchuang had scheduled a small engagement dinner for December 8th at her private villa. It wasn't large, only the inner circle invited, ostensibly to warm up for her engagement to Lin Shubai, but in reality to announce her choice to the outside world and solidify her position. The Chung family naturally received an invitation addressed to the entire Chung family. Grandmother called Lin Shubai and me before her. "You will both attend the engagement dinner." She looked at me with an ultimatum in her eyes. "Yinxiu, behave yourself. No scenes. Shubai, be steady." Lin Shubai was triumphant. "Don't worry, grandmother." He glanced at me. "I'll take good care of Gu." I lowered my eyes. "Okay." Back in the attic, Zhou Ming looked nervous. "This dinner, he'll definitely try something." "Let him try," I said, opening my wardrobe. "But there won't be a second car accident." Zhou Ming, How many backup copies of the USB drive did you make? 3. One with me, one with my brother, and one encrypted email to Lawyer Lou. Good. If anything happens to me tonight, release all 3 simultaneously. The night of the engagement dinner was the coldest of the winter so far. Lu Wanchuang's private villa was halfway up the west side of the city, ablaze with lights, warmth radiating through floor-to-ceiling windows like a crystal box edged in gold. In the attic, Zhou Ming brought out the clothes I had prepared. Not mourning white, but a sharply tailored black suit, pure black, no pattern. On the lapel, the platinum brooch my mother often wore, a plum blossom shape, understated but recognizable. Not the gray one, Zhou Ming asked. Tonight isn't their stage. I fastened my cufflinks, checking myself in the phone's front camera. It's mine. Before leaving, I dug the old bronze mirror out of a cardboard box in the corner of the attic. I'd thrown it in a box of miscellaneous items on moving day and almost forgotten it. The mirror's surface was long since tarnished, crisscrossed with scratches. I looked at it, then put it in a matte black gift box, tied with a silver gray ribbon, tasteful but not flashy. Arriving at the villa, the warm yellow light softened every face. There weren't many guests, all inner circle. A few group executives, partner representatives, the elders of 2 or 3 old family friends. Lin Shubai stood beside Lu Wanchuang in a crisp new dark gray suit, full of ambition, accepting wave after wave of congratulations. When I walked in, no one gasped, no one stirred. I was dressed impeccably, even more so than most people there. But the platinum plum blossom brooch was recognized by several of the older ladies. Isn't that the one Lin Yin used to wear? Someone murmured. My mother, Lin Yin, had once been one of the most respected women in this circle. Tonight, I wore it as I walked in. A silent reminder to everyone who I was, whose son I was, the true blood of the Chung family, and Lin Shubai was not. Lin Shubai's smile froze for half a second, then recovered. Gu is here. He came to greet me, shaking my hand warmly, his voice just loud enough for those nearby to hear. I'm so happy today. Gu must have a few drinks. I didn't pull my hand away. I even smiled. Shubai, congratulations. I handed him the gift box. Your brother brought you a wedding present. He took the box, a bit surprised, a bit wary. Open it now, I said, hesitating for a moment. He pulled the ribbon and lifted the lid under the gaze of the crowd. Inside the box was the bronze makeup mirror, palm-sized, antique style, intricate patterns carved into the frame. The mirror's surface was densely scored. Dozens of long, thin scratches crisscrossed the glass, distorting the reflected face. Warping features. Lin Shubai stared at the mirror, his smile slowly fading. The room went quiet for 2 seconds. This was my mother's, I said, my voice not loud, but just enough for everyone to hear. Mirrors get old. They get cloudy. They don't show a clear reflection, but I thought it would be just right for Shubai. When you're at the Lu family, you can look at yourself often, so you don't forget who you really are. I finished with a smile. My tone was mild, as if making a harmless joke, but everyone present heard the subtext. Lin Shubai's fingers gripping the box turned white. He looked up at me, hatred in his eyes like poisoned needles. But he couldn't lash out, not at his engagement dinner. In front of Lu Wanchuang, in front of all the guests, over a mirror. Go. You're so funny. He forced out, his voice raspy. You're welcome. I patted his shoulder and turned to sit in a corner. Lu Wanchuang looked at me from across the room. Her expression was complicated, as if reassessing me. I couldn't read the look, but it was different from before. The dinner proceeded to an auction segment. The young ladies and gentlemen competed to raise their paddles. Lin Shubai bid on a contemporary ink painting for Lu Wanchuang, spending lavishly, earning a chorus of praise. Mr. Lin has a good eye. This Chung family cousin isn't bad. Ms. Lu. What do you think? Someone asked Lu Wanchuang with a smile. Lu Wanchuang gave a slight nod. Shubai is thoughtful. She looked at him warmly. Harmony all around. During the free mingling period, a second-generation rich kid who was friendly with Lin Shubai suddenly spoke to me. His tone barbed. Chung de Xiaoya, not bidding anymore, weren't you supposed to be the art connoisseur? Show us something tonight. Everyone looked over. Lin Shubai also looked my way with a smile, his eyes glinting with anticipation. Lu Wanshuang looked over too, her gaze indifferent. I set down my glass and stood up. Since you're interested. I walked over to a calligraphy piece up for auction, a contemporary master's excerpt from the Heart Sutra. The starting bid wasn't high, but connoisseurs knew it was authentic. I raised my paddle and bid a number slightly above the starting price. No one bid against me. People who didn't know calligraphy wouldn't bother. After winning it, I returned to my seat and said nothing, but several knowledgeable elders nodded slightly. The value of that calligraphy far exceeded the painting Lin Shubai had spent a fortune on. Lin Shubai's expression flickered. Halfway through the dinner, the guests moved to the lounge area for tea and conversation. Lin Shubai, probably feeling overshadowed, grew agitated. Suddenly, he let out a surprised exclamation. The jade bracelet on my right wrist had somehow slipped out from under my sleeve. My mother's bracelet. This was the first time I had worn it out to an event, keeping it covered until now, but perhaps the motion of bidding had pulled my sleeve back. Lin Shubai's eyes lit up. He quickly walked over, leaned in to look at the bracelet on my wrist, then raised his voice. Gu, this bracelet, isn't that the one Wanshuang Jie gave you last time? You're still wearing it. His voice exploded through the lounge like a bomb, given by Lu Wanshuang. Everyone's attention instantly focused on my wrist. A man, after the engagement had been changed, still wearing jewelry given by his ex-fiancée. That was obsession, refusal to let go, shamelessness. Lu Wanshuang's face darkened. Lin Shubai pointed at my wrist, barely concealing his glee. He had finally found a chance to crucify me in public. The whole lounge fell silent. Slowly, I raised my wrist, letting everyone see the jade bracelet clearly. Then, I unfastened it and placed it on the tea table. Shubai, my voice was calm. Look closely. Whose bracelet is this? Wanshuang Jie gave it to you. Lin Shubai didn't hesitate. The one she bid on at the jade exhibition last year. Are you sure? He paused, bending down to look more closely. The bracelet glowed with an oily green under the light. On the inside of the band, tiny characters were engraved. Several guests nearby craned their necks curiously. The characters inside the bracelet read, in a fine regular script, Yin gives to Yinxiu, peace year after year. Yin was my mother Lin Yin's name. This bracelet was given to me by my mother at my 18th birthday coming-of-age ceremony. It had nothing whatsoever to do with Lu Wanshuang. Lin Shubai's face froze. This can't be. You clearly what? I picked up the bracelet, holding it to the light so the engraved characters were even clearer. You clearly saw a similar jade at MS. Lu's, and so you assumed the one I'm wearing was also a gift from her. Shubai, you seem to remember MS. Lu's jewelry very well. Do you often go through her jewelry box? The last sentence was a knife. Lin Shubai flushed crimson. I did not. I just remembered wrong. I put the bracelet back on and buttoned my sleeve. In front of all these people, you identified this as a gift from MS Lu, implying I'm still hung up on my ex-fiancée. Tell me, did you just remember wrong, or was it intentional? The expressions around us changed, from schadenfreude to scrutiny. Scrutiny of Lin Shubai? Falsely accusing someone in public of being obsessed with an ex, if proven false, is deliberate slander, a vicious act. Lu Wanshuang's face had darkened to a stormy black. She gave Lin Shubai a cold look. Lin Shubai, she said, her voice betraying no emotion. You were mistaken. Be more careful in the future. A light sentence, but anyone could hear the rebuke and warning within. Lin Shubai swayed, the color draining from his face. Yes, Shubai was mistaken. I'm sorry. His voice trembled. I gave a slight nod, no longer looking at him, and sat back down. After this incident, the atmosphere at the dinner became delicate. Lin Shubai became a laughingstock. No one spoke to him. Lu Wanshuang lost interest and left early. Back at the Chung house, predictably, I was called into the living room as soon as I entered. What good did you do today? My father pointed at me. You knew how important tonight was, yet you wore that bracelet out to cause misunderstanding. Are you deliberately trying to ruin the Chung family's reputation? Lin Shubai curled up beside grandmother, crying with red, swollen eyes. Uncle, don't blame Gu. It was Shubai's poor eyesight. A mistake. Gu surely didn't mean it. Shut up. My father snapped, his anger boiling over. Actually rebuking Lin Shubai. but the next second he turned back to me. Chung Yinxiu, you humiliated Xu Bai in public. Do you have any sense of fraternal duty? Family shame should not be aired, but you made a big scene. Where does that leave the Chung family's face? Grandmother said. Yinxiu, even if Xu Bai was at fault, you could have spoken to him privately. Why do it in such a setting? You've embarrassed the Chung family, my mother sighed. How have you become so sharp-tongued? Xu Bai is your little brother. I looked at them. No matter the truth, no matter who was right or wrong, I was always the one blamed. The suit, I said calmly, the gray suit, was grandmother's arrangement. The bracelet is my mother's bequest. I always wear it. Against my skin, my sleeve just rode up tonight. I didn't deliberately expose it. As for embarrassing Xu Bai in public, he was the one who pointed at my wrist and claimed it was Ms. Lu's gift, trying to ruin my reputation. Was I wrong to defend myself? Should I have accepted that stain on my character in the name of the greater good? Sophistry. Father, I interrupted him, my voice dry. Punish me if you want, but I won't confess to something I didn't do. I've done that enough already. My hand clenched my phone in my pocket. On it were all the screenshots Xiao Chun had sent. Lin Xu Bai's diary entries, one by one, with timestamps, with original text. The time was almost here, but not now. I needed to wait until their favoritism reached its peak, until Lin Xu Bai was drunk on his own success, until Lu Wanchuang made her final choice, until that moment when everyone was there, with no way to escape. That slap, in the end, never landed. Go back to your attic. Don't leave without my permission, grandmother said, her voice sounding a decade older. Yes, I turned. Behind me, grandmother's tired voice. Xu Bai, get up. You were wrong today. Be more careful in the future. Yes, Xu Bai understands. His voice was soft and hoarse. No matter how great his fault, a few tears, and he was forgiven, and I was always the one in the wrong. I knew why I couldn't hand the evidence to Lu Wanchuang privately. She wasn't someone who would be convinced by evidence. She was someone who would manage it. If I quietly slipped her the USB drive, what would she do? She would assess. Would making this public benefit her or harm her? Lin Xu Bai's diary contained not only his own dirty dealings, but also things about Su Ran, the most hidden thread at her side. If I gave it to her privately, she would surely suppress the Su Ran part. Only deal with Lin Xu Bai, and then claim to the outside that the matter has been properly resolved internally. Lin Xu Bai would be quietly kicked out, but Su Ran would be protected, and I, the one who handed her the knife, would either be co-opted as a new pawn or seen as a threat who knew too much. No, only by exposing it publicly, making the evidence known in front of dozens of people, would she be unable to suppress it. Everyone would see it. Everyone would hear it. Even if she wanted to cover it up, she couldn't. As for the Chung family's reputation, in my previous life, they had used my life to protect that reputation. In this life, reputation was a chip in my hand, not a shackle. Lu Wanchuang quickly scheduled a formal engagement dinner. This one was larger, same location, twice the number of guests. The invitations more formal. She was going to seal her relationship with Lin Xu Bai in front of all the important people. The Chung family's invitation still said the entire Chung family. This time, I was not left at home. The night of the engagement dinner, the villa was even brighter than last time. A champagne tower formed a pyramid at the entrance. Flowers and string music were everywhere. After the disturbance in the lounge had settled, the guests returned to the banquet hall, and the dinner entered its second half. Amid the clinking glasses and chatter, I stood up. No one noticed me. I walked to the grand piano in the center of the hall and lightly tapped the lid 3 times. The metallic vibration lowered the din by a notch. A few people turned around. Ladies and gentlemen, uncles, aunts. I began, my voice not loud but highly penetrating, a skill honed in court. Sorry to interrupt. Today is my cousin Xu Bai and Miss Lu's engagement dinner. As his older brother, I have a few heartfelt words to offer Xu Bai as a congratulatory speech. Lin Xu Bai's expression cycled through alertness, concealment, forced smile in 2 seconds. Go. You're too kind, he started, trying to stop me. First, I raised my index finger, my voice clear. Xu Bai, the Lu family is not the Chung family, and Miss Lu is not grandmother or auntie. She won't be fooled by your tears plus victimhood plus taking a bullet for someone act. Over there. Hold back a little. The room erupted. You. Lin Shubai's expression changed dramatically. Second. I ignored him. Things you steal can never be truly held. Living in my room. Using my computer. Wearing the clothes that should have been mine. You can take all that. But there are things you can't take. You know what they are. Chung Yinxiu, you're insane. My father shot up from his seat. Third. My voice rose an octave. My gaze pinning Lin Shubai. Do you really think no one knows what you've done? I pulled out my phone from my inside pocket and opened a file. Everyone here. I raised the phone, screen outward. This is my cousin Lin Shubai's personal diary. Screenshots taken by a member of his staff, each with a complete timestamp and phone status bar information. I scrolled to the first entry and read it aloud. March 17th. Today I performed a great scene in front of Annie. She asked about Yinxiu. So I reddened my eyes and said, it's all Shubai's fault for being useless. I almost laughed out loud. These people are so easy to fool. Dead silence. I scrolled to the second. April 2nd. Got Xiao Wang to respin that article. Chung family's eldest son flees the scene. Push it through 3 marketing accounts simultaneously. Pay from the Su account. Remember to delete the memo. I scrolled to the third. April 20th. Su ran past messages for me again. Wanchuang Jie got chewed out by old Lu at the board meeting today. She's in a bad mood. I had Su Ran tell her I was the one who sent the message. Sure enough, Wanchuang Jie texted back, Shubai is thoughtful. Too easy. Su Ran, Lu Wanchuang's personal assistant. I saw Lu Wanchuang's expression change in an instant. Not anger, but something deeper, betrayal, infiltration, her most trusted person leaking intelligence. I continued scrolling. May 3rd. Grandmother made Yinxiu move to the attic. I slipped a listening device under his pillow, listened for 2 days. Nothing useful, just him and that Zhou Ming guy talking. Boring. May 15th. I'll get Yinxiu's jade bracelet sooner or later. Once I'm in the Lu family, I'll take all of Annie's belongings. He doesn't deserve to keep them anyway. June 1st. Enough. Lin Shubai's shriek cut me off. He rushed toward me, trying to grab my phone. I sidestepped, and he stumbled, nearly crashing into the piano. They're fake. Chung Yinxiu, you faked the evidence. You bribed Xiao Chun. Those screenshots are photoshopped. He was incoherent, eyes bloodshot, facial muscles twitching. Fake. I put the phone back in my pocket and pulled out a USB drive. This USB drive contains the original files of every screenshot, including EXIF data and device serial numbers. You can do a forensic comparison with your phone. There are fellow lawyers here. Chung Li, my oldest brother, is a lawyer. They can verify anytime. I looked toward the door. Xiao Chun, come in. The door opened. Zhou Ming let a thin man in his 30s inside. Xiao Chun, Lin Shubai's former driver, was pale, but his jaw was clenched tightly, like a man who had made a decision and wasn't looking back. And my gaze swept the room, finally landing on a corner, a young man in a dark gray suit, who had been standing quietly behind Lu Wanchuang the whole time. Su Ran. Assistant Su, I called. Would you like to explain to Miss Lu why your name appears 19 times in Lin Shubai's diary? Su Ran's face lost all color instantly. Lu Wanchuang's head whipped toward him. The temperature in the hall plummeted. No, I didn't. Su Ran's voice sounded strangled. Just what? Lu Wanchuang's voice was eerily calm. Passing messages to him for me. Inquiring about my schedule for him. Helping him. She stopped. She wasn't someone who lost control in front of others, but the fingers gripping her wine glass were white as bone. Miss Lu, I walked to her and handed her the USB drive. All the information is inside. You can have any third-party organization do a forensic analysis. These diary entries detail how Lin Shubai hired people to spread negative information about me, how he used Su Ran to infiltrate your circle and pass intelligence, and how he performed the wronged little brother act in the Chung family to win the elder's favor. Times, names, amounts. Every detail, clearly recorded. I turned to the ashen-faced Lin Shubai. Shubai, your writing is pretty good. You recorded things even more carefully than I did. It's a pity. With diaries, it's best not to use your phone's memo pad. Unencrypted, if someone sees them, they become evidence in court. Lin Shubai collapsed to the floor. His lips trembled, tears streamed down, but those tears no longer held any hint of victimhood, only fear. No, they were bribed. Chung Yinxiu set me up. His voice grew smaller and smaller. Grandmother, father, mother. Their expressions shifted and changed. They looked at Lin Shubai, broken on the floor, then at the USB drive in my hand, at Xiao Chen's determined gaze, at Su Ran's pale face. For 3 years, their beloved, good nephew had been this kind of person. And what about their accusations, cold shoulders, and pressure on me for 3 years? Yinxiu, these things, when did you? Why didn't you tell us sooner? Grandmother's voice was dry. Tell you sooner. I looked at her. Grandmother, if I had told you earlier, would you have believed me? In your eyes. Shubai was always right. The weak, innocent one who needed protection, and I was always wrong, petty, and unreasonable. Until today. Until I brought the screenshots and witnesses before you. Only then were you willing to see the truth. Isn't that right? No one answered. Lin Shubai lay on the floor, trembling all over. Everyone waited for Lu Wanchuan's response. She stood in the center of the hall, still holding her wine glass, motionless as a frozen statue. Her gaze moved from the USB drive to Su Ran's face, to Lin Shubai's face, then stopped at some point in the void. She was calculating, weighing, deciding. Lin Shubai. She finally spoke, her voice like a blade scraping glass. Do you have anything to say? Lin Shubai looked up, his face a mask of utter terror and despair. He looked at Lu Wanchuan, the woman he had schemed for 3 years to climb up to. She was now looking down at him as if at an insect. He was finished. He knew he was finished, but a drowning man will grab anything that floats, even if that piece of driftwood will capsize the rescue boat. Wanchuan Jia, his voice had risen to a distorted shriek. You think I'm the only one? You think I'm the only person who planted someone beside you? He pointed wildly at Su Ran. Su Ran, he didn't just pass messages for me. He and you. Lu Wanchuan's eyes narrowed sharply. Shut up, she said, not loudly, but like a guillotine. But Lin Shubai had lost his mind. He howled without restraint. Su Ran has done so much for you. You know it well. Your schedule, your business secrets, those off-the-books deals between you and Lu Zhang. You think I'm the only one who knows. Su Ran told me everything. His relationship with you isn't just that of an assistant. Shut up. Lu Wanchuan's wine glass smashed to the floor. Red wine splattered like a dark flower. The air in the hall congealed. Everyone heard. In Lin Shubai's unfinished words, something bigger, deeper, more fatal than the current scandal. That there might be a bond between Lu Wanchuan and her assistant Su Ran that went beyond a working relationship, and that Su Ran was likely not just Lin Shubai's inside source, but also a pawn of Lu Wanchuan's own, a double agent behind a double agent. Lu Wanchuan's scheme might be far more complex than anyone had imagined, and Lin Shubai, in his desperation, had stepped into the true forbidden zone. Su Ran's face was beyond pale, his mouth opened, emitting tiny, broken sounds, like a machine about to fail. Lu Wanchuan closed her eyes. When she opened them again, all emotion had been locked away behind an impenetrable shell of ice. She didn't look at Lin Shubai again, nor at Su Ran. Instead, she turned to the few elders present and said, in a voice eerily calm, "What happened today was due to my poor judgment. This engagement is void. My apologies to all the uncles, aunts, and seniors. I will host another dinner another day to make amends." She turned and walked toward the door, her steps steady, her back straight. Su Ran ran after her. MS, Lu. She didn't look back. The door closed. Lin Shubai huddled on the floor, wailing. No one was beside him. My father, Chung Hemming, was ashen. Grandmother's hand trembled so much she could barely hold her cane. My mother covered her mouth, as if seeing the good nephew she had doted on for 3 years for the first time. My oldest brother, Cheng Li, stood in a corner, silent, his expression too complex to read. I looked at the chaotic scene before me. There was no joy of revenge in my heart, only a cold, desolate emptiness. These were the people I had given 3 years of freedom. For, treated with all my sincerity, I turned and walked out of the villa, leaving the turmoil behind. The night wind was cold. Evergreen hedges along the mountain road cast neat shadows under the street lamps. I put my hands in my pockets and walked slowly down the slope. In the following days, The chain reaction toppled like dominoes. Audio and video recordings from the engagement dinner spread to private social media circles that very night. The path of transmission took several turns, seemingly accidental, but every step was within expectation. Within 48 hours, the full story of Chung family's cousin fakes identity, hires online trolls to smear his own brother, uses a spy to infiltrate his fiancée's circle, became the most explosive social bombshell of the winter. Lu Wanchuang made no public statements. She took 48 hours to complete an internal purge. According to Zhou Ming's intel, Su Ran was fired the same day, signed a non-disclosure agreement, and left with nothing. His social media accounts were all deleted overnight, as if he had never existed. What state he was in when he left, no one could say. Lu Wanchuang, through her lawyers, formally sent notice, terminate all engagement ties with the Chung family, and reserve the right to pursue legal action against Lin Shubai for defamation, commercial espionage, and other liabilities. The Lu Group board seized the opportunity to pass a second resolution, citing the management vulnerabilities exposed by this incident. Lu Wanchuang voluntarily resigned from all group positions to focus on personal matters. Lu Zheng took full control of group operations. Lu Wanchuang fell from grace, not because of Lin Shubai, but because Su Ran's exposure gave the already covetous board members the excuse they needed to unseat her. This was crueler than outright dismissal. She was sold out by her own person, and that own person was an assistant she had personally promoted. Lin Shubai was expelled from the Chung family. Grandmother made the decision. From her sickbed? Yes, her heart had acted up again that night. She said in a hoarse voice, "Send him away. Remove him from the family records. The Chung family has no such person." My father, Chung Hemming, was voted out of his law firm partnership by the other partners. The reason was simple: poor household management, causing negative social impact, damaging the firm's reputation. He sat in his study, smoking one cigarette after another, not leaving for 3 days. My oldest brother, Chung Li, barely kept his job, but his reputation within the circle was severely damaged. My mother spent her days crying. The day Lin Shubai left, I stood at the attic window and looked down. He stood in front of the garage with a suitcase, waiting for a taxi. No one saw him off. The curtains in the East Wing suite he had once occupied were tightly drawn. He looked up toward the attic. I wasn't sure if he saw me. A taxi arrived. He got in, the door closed, and it drove away. As for me, after everything had settled, Lu Wanchuang called me. "Chung Yinxiu." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "The engagement is terminated. It has nothing to do with you anymore." A pause. "What happened that day you won?" "I didn't win," I said. She was silent for 3 seconds, then hung up. The dial tone buzzed for a long time before I put the phone down. The Chung family gave me a property division agreement, the portion of my mother's dowry that belonged to me, some savings, plus some compensation. Not too much, not too little, just enough for me to start over. Grandmother did not see me. She sent a message. "I'm sorry." 3 words, nothing else. I don't know if she truly regretted it, or if she was making a final accounting of her conscience before the end, but I accepted those 3 words. Not forgiven, but accepted. The night before I left the Chung family, my mother came to the attic. She stood in the doorway, looking at the cramped space I had lived in for 3 months. Windows like postage stamps, creaky floors, a single lamp, and the rosewood jewelry box on the table. "Yinxiu," she choked, wanting to come in. "Mom, is something wrong?" I didn't look up, continuing to fold clothes into my suitcase. "I came to see you." She stepped inside and reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. Not this time. Her hand was cold, colder than the attic air. "Yinxiu, Mom is sorry." Her tears fell, landing on the back of my hand. Mom truly didn't know Shubai was that kind of person. Mom was biased. "I wronged you." "Mom," I interrupted softly. "You didn't not know. You didn't want to know." Her lips moved, but she didn't argue. "Every time Shubai bullied me, you saw it. You saw it. But you chose to believe his tears instead of my truth, because his tears made you soft, and mine made you irritated." I said it calmly, not like an accusation, more like stating a fact both parties already knew. My mother covered her face, her shoulders shook. "I know it wasn't easy for you," I said. "Caught between grandmother and dad. You had your own difficulties, but you are my mother. You should have stood by me, even just once, she cried, unable to speak. I took the rosewood box from my suitcase, opened it, and took out the jade bracelet. Take this back, I said, placing it in her palm. She stared at me in shock. This is Mom's gift to you. I know, but I don't want to think of these past 3 months every time I see it. I closed her fingers around it. Keep it for me, when the day comes that I can remember it only as the bracelet you wore while smiling. I'll come back for it. My mother hugged the bracelet and ran crying down the attic stairs. I listened to her footsteps fade down the stairs and disappear at the end of the hallway. I zipped my suitcase. The next morning, Zhou Ming and I got into the car in the basement garage. Zhou Ming put the luggage in the trunk and rubbed his hands together. Where to? I started the engine. In the rearview mirror, the gray outer wall of the Chung family's old residence receded inch by inch in the morning light. Out of the city first, I said, and then I looked at the sky beyond the windshield, gray, but in the east, an extremely thin, golden crack, like someone had sliced an opening in the lead gray curtain. Then, to a place where nobody knows Chung Yinxiu. The car merged into the morning rush hour traffic. The sound of the engine blended into the roar of 10,000 other vehicles, not loud, but steady.